Thank you, Mr. President. I enjoyed hearing the remarks from my fellow senator from Missouri, and I wish Sam and his next deployment well as his military liaison, and I thank him as well for serving our country. I come to the floor today to talk about tax reform and its benefits for middle-class families across this nation. But first, I would like to highlight a program that is critical to these families, especially their children, and that is the State Children's Health Insurance Program, or as we refer to it, and it's referred across the nation, CHIP. For more than 20 years, and really this is the beginning, when I first began serving in the West Virginia House of Delegates, CHIP was one of the first programs that I became a strong champion for. And that's because I understand how critical it was then for families in West Virginia and what it is now. When I was in the legislature in the 90s, I served on the committee charged with creating and implementing a state children's health insurance program. And my voting record on this issue has been very, very clear. As a member of the House of Representatives and now in the United States Senate, I have voted numerous times to fund and expand the CHIP program. In my state of West Virginia, a smaller state, 22,000 children are in the West Virginia CHIP program, and that includes over 10,000 families. And it's essential for these working families, and it's essential that we recognize that some working families are unable to get insurance. Maybe they can get it for the person who's working or the spouse, but a lot of times it's prohibitive to get the insurance for the children at the same time. That's where CHIP comes in. It's preventive, it's for sickness and illness, and it has really helped, I think, increase the health of our young people in the state of West Virginia. I was pleased that the bill passed out of the Finance Committee with strong bipartisan support, and I want to thank them for their efforts. I've also spoken with Leader McConnell, and he is very favorable about the need to reach a solution for this by year's end. Thousands of West Virginia families and children who rely on this program need to know that it's going to be there. And we know we're running up against a funding deadline and an expiration. We've already passed the expiration date. So I look forward to working together with members of the body, both sides of the aisle here, to reauthorize CHIP and the CHIP program as soon as possible. So that will be a good Christmas present, I think. And another thing I'd like to talk about is a policy that I think will greatly benefit families in West Virginia and across this nation, and that is the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act that we passed last week. I was very proud to vote for that. Proud because I understand what this legislation can mean to the working families and so many people in our state. And today, I would like to explain exactly why I did vote for the bill. First, I'd like to talk about the 83% of West Virginia families who file don't use itemization. They file the short form. And for those families, 83% of those filers, that is double the standard deduction, double the child tax credit, which means significant tax savings. I voted for the bill because it cuts taxes for folks in all income brackets. These are the people who are tired of Washington telling them how to spend their hard-working dollars, or even yet, Washington spending their hard-working dollars for them. Now we are telling these hard-working men and women that they can keep more of their own dollars to make those decisions. They can decide how to spend it. Not a novel idea, but I think very welcome increase in our tax dollars coming home are going to be welcomed by every individual family. So whether they're spending on something that helps them today or tomorrow, or whether they're saving for the future, let's let them make that decision. The point of this is that decision should be theirs. I also voted for this bill because it helps American businesses of all sizes. It will empower our small businesses to grow and thrive. We had a small businesses came to Capitol Hill last week from the Eastern Panhandle. Many of them had different reasons why this was going to help their small business. Yes, tax cuts and more money for them to invest in their own business is a big positive for many of them. But one particular small business said, you know what I really want? I want more time with my family, to devote to my family, to devote to my church, So while I'm an owner of a small business and devoting all the time to my small business, give me the time back that it takes me to comply with the U.S. tax code. Simplify this, and give me that time to devote to my family and my church. I also feel that not just small businesses are going to grow, but it's also going to help men and women have more job opportunities and higher wages. When it comes to our larger businesses and corporations, it makes them more competitive. Even in a small state like mine, we have 50% of our workforce works for a private workforce works in a larger, well, actually works for a small business. I think it's 30% work for a larger corporation. But as that corporation becomes more competitive globally and our products become more competitive, the result of that is going to be higher wages, more sales, more jobs, more opportunities, more expansions into our states and not beyond our borders. And I voted for this bill last week because it gives our economy a big boost. I challenge anybody who's watching this closely or feels this in their family or in their state budget or their personal budget that says that this country's economy is growing fast enough or is robust enough or everybody's benefiting. We know that's not the case. We see it in our towns. I live in a relatively small area. Communities in my state of West Virginia and across this country have been forced to deal with the consequences of a struggling economy. Shuttered stores, closing schools, falling real estate prices. This is what happens when everything contracts or stays so stagnant. And it has really affected many aspects of our lives. So I voted for this tax bill because, you know what, I'm just not okay with that. I'm not okay with standing still. Because if you're standing still, you're losing. We need to move this economy forward. We need to make it work for everybody. And so basically, I've had enough. The Tax Cut and Jobs Act represents a new direction for America, one that provides hope, prosperity, and a chance to really turn things around for a lot of people. Of course, as with many legislative accomplishments of this magnitude, concerns have been raised from some of those who feel differently. That's what a conference committee is about. We hear concerns. We've heard them from our constituents. I'm sure the House has heard them from their constituents. That's what the conference committee is all about. And I've been raising the ones that I've heard in West Virginia to my friends on who are going to be a part of the conference process. So as I've said many times, this is a significant moment for our country. I believe we haven't done major tax reform in 31 years. It's well past time. It will provide a significant opportunity, and it requires big and bold action. You know, we do a lot of little things around here that help people, and those are great. But it's rare that we can do something big and bold that's going to help so many people in this country. Well, I'm going to go back to my statistic. 83% of the people in West Virginia file without itemization. They are going to be getting a doubling of the standard deduction, a doubling of the child tax credit, a tax cut, tax relief. Keep the money, make the decision in your own family. And it's predicted, because of the simplification factor, that that number of 83% will actually rise in many states, and mine included. So I think this big and bold action we're about to embark on is something that we can look at with great pride. I ask my colleagues on both sides to sincerely look at this, and in our efforts to provide tax relief, tax reform, tax cuts, and an economic boost to our country that we so desperately need. With that, Mr. President, I yield the floor.